Press and record. Here we go. What is going on? Welcome to the Rumenation podcast. Welcome. This is the sixth episode, and I am your host, Rumen. And as always, we are building a nation that is branded by motivation through a simple process called cultivation. Today's guest, I have someone absolutely special for you, Darian Stevens, a professional style skier, been competing for the national team since 2012. So, been here pretty much a lot of the competing at the highest level, and pretty much every contest, including World Cups, World Championships, Dual Tour, X Games, and the 2018 Winter Olympics. Thank you for joining to the sixth episode of the Rumination podcast. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. So as always, I'm just going to ask the vocab, and tonight's vocab word is character. There's never a wrong answer, so just let me know how it relates to you, whether it's personally or just professionally on the slope. So what does character mean to you?
To me, it just really, revolves around your morals, and good character is just, somebody that has good values, and it's kind of like sort of like your personality, but really more down to the fundamentals. For me.
100%. I totally agree. Well, we're going to get rolling. So the first question that I have for you, Darian, is how do training and cultivation matter? What's the difference in your eyes? What is training versus, or do they not mean anything to you?
Let me just double check the definition of cultivation. What are we looking for there?
Cultivation just really means like holistically, right? So for example, you can train the body as everybody going through the training regimens, physically working out constantly every day. But cultivation means you're not just training the body, you're training the mind, you're eating well, you're sleeping well, you're taking care of holistically cultivation, right?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
To me, those kind of just go hand in hand. You have, going to the gym and all that proper training that you're doing. But I think that a lot of the things that you do when you get home and when you're done training matter just as much as other things. And mentally, pretty much any sport is, very challenging. So being very strong in your mind is very important for a good performance as well.
100%. And just so we don't get too far ahead of ourselves, please let everybody know, if people who don't know what you specialize in, please let them know slopestyle skier. What is for those who don't know?
Yeah, so it's a relatively new sport, so a lot of people don't fully understand it. But when you're at a resort and you see the terrain parks with all the rails and the jumps and stuff like that, that's slopestyle. So they essentially, a course is usually about 3 to 4 rails, 3 to 4 jumps. So we go through and you're judged based on every single feature in that slopestyle course.
Wow. And as someone who's never competed for skiing, but is definitely interested in the sports and competition, I'm sure there's different segments of grading. Is it artistic grading? Is there like the height grading? What's the grading like? Well, how is that?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different stuff.
Okay.
For one, it's not based on time. I do get that question a lot. In reality, there is a specific time that you would have to get down, because to make the jumps, you have to go a certain speed, right? So, but you're judged on amplitude. There is a little bit of creativity in there. The judges don't want to see the same exact thing from everybody. So you can find little ways to stand out. Style, like overall impression of the run.
Wow.
I believe that's most cleanliness and degree of difficulty, I think, are like the main factors in judging.
So cleanliness in the sense of making it look kinesthetic, easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So clean landings, stuff like that. Just not, keeping your arms in a good place, not up above your head, crazy, stuff like that. Yeah.
Acts like you've been there before, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, so we're gonna keep it going. How do how can the human ego adversely affect one's athletic performance? So how does ego affect your training or competition?
Yeah, so that one's huge. A lot of people don't really see it like that. They kind of just think it's, just physical talent. And there's really so much more than that. I mean, you can be feeling tip top shape, and if your mind's not there, then you just might not be able to figure it out. So you kind of just have to find a way to block out those negative thoughts and try to really be, confident. Because even if you're not feeling great, if you're feeling super confident, you can kind of keep it together for the most
Right,
part.
right. And I have noticed this. Please correct me if I'm wrong, because you've obviously have been there, lived it, trained it, and performed it. I've heard, and my other people who have interviewed, the higher the level of the competition, the physical stuff isn't. There's only so much you can do there, but where the turns
Mhm.
and dials comes in, really, really important is the mental stuff.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy because I was actually probably the least nervous when I was at the Olympics, just because
Okay.
I knew like the qualifiers were just so like everybody was just so high stress. Everybody wants to go, and you have this huge buildup. I mean, I've been wanting to go since I was like a toddler, so you have this huge buildup.
Wow.
And you get there and I was actually like decently relaxed because you kind of just know that you put in all the hard work and you
Mhm.
like deserve to be there, so you can kind of calm those nerves a little bit and just be kind of let your body just know what it knows how to do.
Right. This is uh on topic, but it wasn't the questions. But how'd you know you wanted to become a slopestyle skier?
Well, I kind of had an interesting journey. I grew up skiing moguls, so I pretty much the the mountain that I grew up at didn't really have a terrain park. So I started out skiing moguls. My dad got me started when I was pretty young. I think I started competing around 8.
Wow.
And so I did that for a good 6 years, I think. And you travel to other events, and there'd be options to do half pipe and slope style and aerials and all these other things.
Right.
And I tried out slope style and I really liked it. And eventually, after trying hard enough, I convinced my parents to let me move because I just didn't have the resources back in Montana for
Mhm.
what I was trying to do. So I moved out to Park City when I was 17 full
Wow.
time. Yeah. So it was kind of an interesting journey, but growing up, I always loved sports and my family loved the Olympics. So I was always interested in that sort of realm.
Wow. I bet that transition was difficult at 17, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I was a little bit behind the curve. I
Mm.
had a lot of friends from the East Coast that grew up skiing park, and so they had a lot more resources and stuff like that. But yeah, once I moved out here, it was nice, and I got to train as much as everybody else, and that really helped me out.
Sweet. That's awesome. Um, Next question. How does confidence play a major role in athletic performance?
Yeah, so it's crazy. Honestly, it's hard to even like describe because it seems like you would just be so good at something that stuff like that wouldn't bother you, but
Right.
the mental stuff is just so hard to overcome. I mean, you can literally be like in the best shape, do everything right, but
Mhm.
if your mind's telling you that you're not good enough for stuff like that, like it's really hard to push those aside. And I find it pretty easy at this point in my career to curb like physical pain
Right.
for to a certain degree. Like you've dealt with that for so long that you're kind of like pretty easy to push that one aside, but the mental thoughts are very, very hard to overcome. And it's tough too because you have a whole lot of pressure from yourself, but then you also like from sponsors and ski teams
Mm,
and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
it's definitely important to work on your own mental um, strength as well.
100%. There was I read an interview. I don't. Do you know who Billie Jean King is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. She said a quote that's something I don't want to kill the quote, but it's something when like the higher the pressure in athletic performance, the more you got to use this, the more you got to
Hmm.
pull up resources out of here. And I literally was thinking the same thing when you just said that. So I was like, wow, I can't imagine with all the pressure that you're going through to be put the blinders on and just focus on
Totally.
do what you do best.
Yep. And I mean, it gets crazy too. You know, you have like every single slopestyle course is different. So you never really know what you're getting into.
Right.
Conditions can be very questionable and tough. Speed can be an issue, or it's windy or snowy. So there's a lot of stuff you kind of have to figure out how to um, manage, I guess.
Yeah.
But me being kind of a veteran, I guess, of sorts at this point, but that definitely helps, I think, just dealing with all those variables for so
Right.
many years, and injuries and stuff too, obviously, um, can kind of help you stay on top. And
I was just gonna ask you a random thought. I'm sure you've had a lot of injuries, huh? Especially in the moguls.
yeah, for sure. I actually did pretty good when I was in moguls. I was really young, so
All right.
I really didn't sustain any injuries there, but yeah, I've had 3 ACL replacements. I recently got a surgery actually like 6 weeks ago,
Oh wow.
on my knee. So yeah, it's tough. Couple broken bones, but for us, those are the easy ones. So
Right.
yeah, it's hard on your body. So
It
that's
does.
another thing you have to kind of learn how to manage as well, and know when to go for it and know when to kind of pull back and listen to your
Right.
body and all that kind of stuff.
I'm interested if you don't mind me telling what recently surgery because I had surgery okay not 6 weeks ago but like 3 or 4 months ago and
Yeah.
I had the under your patella there's a fat pad and I had a fat
Hmm.
pad injury within the patella and that wasn't the most fun. But what was your if you don't mind telling the audience?
Yeah. It was actually relatively easy. I just got a scope on my meniscus. So I just had a small meniscus tear and they just
Yeah,
went in and cut it out. So it's actually been my easiest surgery to date.
I would
But
assume so.
yeah, so it's kind of just, it's tough on the knees, but trying to keep her going, I guess.
100%. All right, so next question. Thank you so much for your time, and you are doing absolutely phenomenal, by the way.
Yeah, of
So
course.
thank you. What was the situation in sport or competition in which fatigue or discomfort took you off your game?
Yeah, that's a long list.
Okay, just
But
get just a couple tangible ones.
yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of things um, can build up. I mean, everything's so variable.
Right.
Um, go a little bit too far on a jump, go a little bit too short on a jump. They both feel equally as terrible, maybe. So just kind of managing that body pain is hard, and when you're super duper tired, it's very very hard to mentally and physically kind of overcome that. Uh, it's kind of insane actually what your body can what your body can do,
It
if
is
you want it to, I guess.
100%. I when I trained out in Colorado, I was on a regimen for a month, eating about 6,500 calories a day, and training about
Wow.
I'd say anywhere from I would say 8 to 10 hours a day to 12 hours a day, and sometimes the max I've done was 15. And I obviously I took breaks within the days, but I tried to do block periods. And you're right. The what the body you put the body through it will be pliable if you will. It will
Hmm.
fold, it will bend, it will crease, and it'll move when you want it to move. And it's I get what you're saying. I totally
Yeah,
do.
for sure. It can be, that kind of stuff is slippery slope though, really.
It
When
is.
you're super fatigued, you're way more likely to get injured and stuff like that. So
That
you
is
really got to find the right balance of training and resting and stuff like that too.
100%. I totally agree. And that's one thing I've seen. Definitely have been paying attention to at the higher level recovery.
Mhm.
is, and I'm not saying for you, but I'm saying I've seen it in my undergrad. Recovery is neglected. It's
Mhm.
not. It is the amount of recovery that does not take place at the higher level. Is crazy. So
For sure.
how do you provision your next question? By the way, how do you provision your mental game?
I mean, everybody has their own tricks and tips, I suppose.
Yeah.
For me, it's really just I try to really just let my body do what it knows how to do and try not to overthink. When I'm, you know, trying too hard to like think about how I do every single trick, it's just too much for me, and I usually can't really I can't really handle that like mentally. So I really focus on, like I'm at the top of the gate waiting to compete, and I'm like chatting with my friends, I'm listening to music. I'm really just trying to stay calm and take it like it's just another training run. I really can't micro analyze in the same way that certain people do. Um, I really just kind of let it go and
Mm-hmm.
try to just be an autopilot, really.
100%. Do you just thinking about it before? And I'm not saying like the entire competition at within the hourly span you compete. I'm just talking like in block periods. Does that make you nervous too?
Not necessarily. I mean, you're not really able to for the most part, just because you don't know what you're competing on. You won't get to know until you get there and kind of, hit the features and see how they're set up and how the jumps are and everything like that. So I think maybe that's one part about slopestyle that helps that is you can't really plan ahead that much. You're kind of
Mm,
forced to pretty much improvise once you get there and figure out what's going to work and what's not going to work.
wow.
So I think that kind of helps me in a way. It might have adverse effects on others, but for me, it's kind of nice to not know what I'm getting into a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, when I'm dropping in, I'm really just in the zone, and I'm not thinking about how to take off or how to land. I'm just kind of focused on, just doing it because that's when
Right,
I feel like I compete at my best.
right. Because you've done it 10,001 times.
Yeah, because pretty much any trick I'm doing, I've done a lot of times. So
That's crazy.
just really, being confident in my skiing and not getting in my own head.
Hmm. Um, which form of competitive pressure is easier to succumb, mental or physical?
Um, I mean, I guess physical, um, just because it's pretty, it's just decently easy to, you're like, this is 30 seconds. If I'm in pain for 30 seconds, it's whatever.
Right,
um, so for us, I guess you can kind of just block it out. It's actually quite easy ish to a
right,
certain degree, obviously,
right,
but it's a lot easier to kind of push those things aside than it is to push a lot of like negative thoughts aside and stuff like that. Um, and even if you think you've pushed them aside, they kind of just sneak up on you sometimes.
100%.
Um, so I would just say physical. I mean, I've dropped into I actually at my first X Games, I had two like legitimately bruised heels and did a run on
Woo!
like large jumps. So it's just, certain things you can block out. And then, when I left the resort, I was like hardly walking. But then,
Oh my gosh.
sometimes you go to a contest and you're like, oh, this trick is driving me nuts. It's driving me nuts. And you just think about it and then you just can't pull it together.
Right.
You're like, what am I doing wrong? And you do it wrong over and over and over again. So I'd still stick with the physical stuff. It's much easier to kind of get over. And I think it's just your body kind of knowing what to do with it and how to kind of push through pain is easier
Yeah.
for me.
Just a quick note for so my viewers range from younger to older, kind of in the athletic department, and some don't know how high some of the jumps are. So please, uh, give it to us raw. How high are some of the jumps there?
I mean, I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like, um, like you're really only in the air for like a split second. But our jumps range anywhere from like, this is like obviously in length, not
Right.
in height. But we usually compete on anything from like 50 feet to 80 feet. So it's like edge of the jump to the flat part of the knuckle. That's what we call it, a knuckle. And then the landing. So it's usually somewhere in there. So if the jump's 80 feet to the knuckle, then you're realistically probably going 90 or 100-ish, because you want to land on the good part of the landing. So it just depends because every course is different. But usually the jumps are like the big ones are at least like, 20 feet, 30 feet tall, maybe. Like they're pretty big. It just depends. And the shape of them is a little bit like they try to make them so it's not like this to like this, right?
Hmm.
Like takeoff landing. They try to make them so they're relatively safe. But yeah, it just varies, but can be very big for sure.
I will
It's a
put
lot of
my
impact.
I will put my ego right over to the side and say I take my youth group skiing, and I'll go off maybe a 5-foot jump, and I will be living scared out of my mind. So I will props to you for that's unbelievable. That's unbelievable again.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And obviously in a sport like this, it's, being able to curb your fear as well, because things can get crazy.
That's crazy.
And a lot can go wrong, really. So yeah, that's kind of keeps it interesting, I guess.
I was thinking when you said, so not the knuckle part, but like the part where it's sloped downward and not if you land on the flat part. My dad actually landed on the flat part out in Colorado and
Hmm.
destroyed his knee.
Yep.
I'm like,
It's no good. The bigger
no.
the jump, the worse the knuckle,
Oh,
probably.
whew.
It can be really bad. And sometimes we have to compete in like just terrible weather conditions
Wow.
where you're just, tucking to try to clear the jump, and then it's just knuckles and knuckles and knuckles. Like it can get crazy. So
That's crazy.
um yeah, a lot of stuff going on.
Well, next question moving forward. We're almost done, by the way. So thank you again.
Yeah,
Um,
of course.
when is holistic training underestimated at the professional Olympic level?
I mean, a lot, I would say. I think that a lot of people just kind of assume that you're, training skiing and you're training in the gym and all those things are all of it. But, obviously there's a huge, huge mental part to it,
Hmm.
um, that just, yeah, it's hard to explain.
No, I
But I
totally get
think
it.
it's
You're
just
good.
so um, like unknown to kind of people that don't compete in
Right.
like very high level sports.
Hmm.
They don't understand that there is like a huge um, like mental side of things, and it's not necessarily like training, but it is sort of.
Right. I know.
um so yeah, that can get crazy, and you'll have like a terrible contest and you just have to figure out how to move on from it, or you're just going to have more and more terrible contests.
Right.
um and so just being able to deal with all the ups and downs and everything like that is hard to learn, I would say, but
Mhm.
or master necessarily, but it's very important to kind of be able to move on and figure out what's working and what's not working and all that kind of stuff.
And it's perfect. Next question. So on a scale, so first off, you're compete. So obviously you're at Utah right now, right?
Yeah.
What are you? So what's the next big event or competition?
Um, well, for me, we had one in February. It got postponed.
Mhm.
All of our contests are postponed until March. So for now, that's the goal. Uh, no idea how realistic those may be at this
Right.
time. I know we have one in France. We're supposed to have one in Canada. I just don't know, with everything going on, we have pretty much no idea.
Wow.
Uh, but it actually works out pretty decent for me. I get to just stay in Park City and train a little bit more because last season, um, in February, I bruised my heel and then wasn't able to compete in March, which did end up getting canceled. But I was going to go, and then I wasn't going, and then it got
Right.
canceled. And then I also broke my foot this summer, so I missed out on some training in the fall.
Dang.
And yeah, so it's been kind of it's been kind of a crazy season. I competed in Austria in November,
There we go.
and that actually went really well. But so I qualified into finals. They take there's like 20 something girls usually, and then they take 8 to the final. So I
Wow.
qualified for the final
That's
in my
awesome.
first contest after like 2 years, which was so nice.
That's
I was
amazing.
really happy, and without
Congratulations.
skiing. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
So um, I skied a bunch in like February, and then I hadn't skied any park since then, really. So when I got to Austria, I literally had 2 days to do everything. Like we
Dang.
had one training day, and then we had qualifiers. So it was quite a journey
Wow.
for me. But yeah, so that went well. And then in finals practice, I took a weird fall and tore my meniscus. So just
Dang.
keeps you guessing, I guess. But
Keeps you on your
um,
toes.
yeah, keeps you on your toes for sure. Never lets you get keeps you humble, I guess, right?
Right. Right.
Um, but yeah, so competitions are up in the air at this point. But hopefully we can get back to it soon. I was really stoked to be back, and I felt super good competing, even under pretty bad circumstances for me.
Wow.
So that was really great, actually.
That's awesome. So next question is, so on a scale 1 through 10, how ready are you to sustain performance under mental pressure of competition right now at this moment? If you had to take a wild guess.
I mean, like physically, I haven't skied a whole lot,
Mhm.
just because I'm coming back from this injury. But I mean,
Right.
mentally, I feel great.
That's amazing.
So yeah, so I guess like an 8 or something, 8 or 9. I don't know. I'm pretty like it's been a long time since I've competed, minus Austria. It was like 2 years since then. So um, decently hungry, I guess.
There we go.
And I mean, I've been feeling super good. So I'm curious to see if we'll have any competitions this season.
I hope you guys do. I can't imagine
Yeah.
how training for something for the amount of time and years and spent and then you can't compete. Like that would be like,
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
imagine.
It's been interesting. But it's kind of a little bit nice for us when we're very into the whole competition scene. When we're super busy with that stuff, we don't get a whole lot of time to, actually work on our fundamentals and practice tricks a lot. You're kind of just getting to a contest and you do what you do. And it doesn't give you a whole lot of opportunity to learn new tricks and stuff like that.
100%.
Because you're not right. You're not going to compete a brand new trick that often if you're not confident with it. So it gives us a lot of time to kind of like step back and, learn new tricks and work on everything. And that's a little bit nice for us, I would say, because we
Right.
usually don't get that. And with the Olympics being next year, we won't really get like this is a good time for us to be able to kind of just work on our stuff because next season's going to be insane.
Dang. All right. So this is kind of so you look at probably I'm looking at the next question. You're probably thinking, why didn't he ask for a higher number? But I'm gonna twist it around and say, why didn't you pick a lower number? So like you picked 10 or 8. And I'm wondering why didn't you pick 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1?
I mean, I guess probably just if you would have asked me before I competed, I might have given you a lower number. I wasn't
Mm,
really sure where I was at with that.
mhm.
It had just, it'd been so long, and, this sport progresses so fast. So it's easy to feel like you're kind of behind. Um, and my lack of training was just kind of nerve wracking as well. But I guess after, showing up and having one day of training in the past 9 months and making the finals, I felt pretty good.
Right.
Um, so feeling decently confident at this point,
That's awesome.
and just kind of trying to ride that. But I guess if you would have asked me at a different time, you might have got quite a different answer from me.
Totally understand. If there's last little quick nugget, and then we'll get out for folks who are, whether it's skiing or of a different sport. I know people who are watching this right now, whether they're playing uh, any other sport. If they could ask you for some advice, just one advice on how to become a better athlete, whether it's mental, physical, or just something that you can leave off my audience to let them know, just kind of a last little nugget thing that you can give them message.
I mean, a huge thing for me, I would, a piece of advice that I would give is just, even though, yes, you're competing in a sport and it's very competitive and stressful, it's really just to, not take things too seriously. I find that I ski at my best when I'm, confident and having fun and skiing with my friends, more than when you show up to the mountain and you're like, I have to do this today. I'm doing this and this and this and this. So really just, and taking time to do things that make you happy, and hanging out with people and friends and family and stuff, it's very stressful, but you have to have ways to kind of deal with that, and just, yeah, just don't take things too seriously. It can be really draining and
Mm,
kind of make you a little bit like worn out in a sport.
right.
So just make sure you have other outlets, and uh yeah, have some fun on the side as
100%.
well. You
100%.
got to
Well,
blow off some steam every once in a while.
well, there you have it, folks. Darian Stevens, thank you so much for joining us for the 6th episode of the Rumination podcast. Good luck to where you're going and what you're competing. I hope you do have the upcoming season sometime or another. But good luck and
Yeah,
thank
thank
you.
you.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for joining. And I will talk to you later.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right, see ya.
Bye bye.